Okay guys, we are here and I'm going to show you how to use After Effects to put a laser beam on somebody's eyes, and it looks pretty cool. So I've already got one done. I'll show you. So this is the effect. This is the picture, and then we put lasers on his eyes. Put a few explosions in the background. I can show you how to do that too. This guy started out on a green screen. We just added a few objects, and yeah, that's about it. I'll show you how to do it. So I created a blank slate, a new composition. I don't have anything in it. There's no settings, nothing. It's all gone. And I'm going to show you how to get started. So first off, we're going to drag your video in. I've got this guy on a green screen. He's behind a green screen. So when you play this, he's on the green screen. So it's okay, but we want to make it look really cool. So what we're going to do is I'm going to first toss in an image, use as a background for this green. So I've already got this image right here, and I'm going to put this in the background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this in here, and I'm going to put it below the video. So in that hierarchy, it's below the video. Now I'm going to drag the duration down because it doesn't need to be the entire thing. And while I'm at it, I'll just drag this down too. That is the length of your video. So this defines where your video is. So there we go. I'm going to trim comp to work area so that I don't have to worry about any of that. And now we're ready to start editing. So first things first, I've got to get rid of all this green. The background's fine, but I've got to get rid of all this green. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to Effect Controls, and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to go over to Keying, and I'm going to add a color range. Now I'm going to grab this eyedropper right here, and I'm going to eyedrop this color here. You can see it sort of worked, but it didn't really work. That's why we grabbed a color range. So we can grab this eyedropper plus, and we can add more colors. And now you can see it got most of it, but there's still a little bit of green on the edges. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to this fuzziness, and I'm going to turn that up just a little bit. Maybe a little bit more than that. You don't want to turn this up too much, because if you turn it up too high, the person on your green screen will start to disappear. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to turn it about 70. No, actually, can't leave it about 70 because it's removing his glasses. So probably a little lower. Let's see. And I think that's good right there. So we're going to stick it about 52. I don't know what your video is going to be, so it depends. But there's that. So I've got this in here. Now I can turn it off and it goes back to black because I keyed out the green. So there's that. So what I'm going to do is I've got to track this guy's eyes, because if you go to about here, you can see his eyes, but they're regular eyes. Let's put a little bit of red on them and make them look pretty cool. So I'm going to come to about here, so his eyes will have a second to be normal before they snap in. And then what I'm going to do is I've got this tracker window open. It's not normally open, but I've already got this window set up. So if you don't have it, you go up to Window, you come down to Tracker, and you click that, and it'll pop up. So I'm going to add a track motion. Now you can see our video went back to normal, but this is because we are no longer in the composition, we are in the video itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag this onto the person's eye. And this is the area that it will scan for this image, and this is what it's scanning for. So if it sees this, it is going to track it into the next frame. So what I'm going to do is, I don't like doing it frame by frame, but it's the easiest way to do it to get precisely what you want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this Analyze One Frame Forward. If you wanted to analyze the entire video, you could just hit this play button, but I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to analyze it frame by frame. Okay guys, I finished this eye, and I'm going to go off and I'm going to apply it to a null object so we can use that to move other objects in the future. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on the composition, and I'm going to hit New Null Object. Now this is a null object. It doesn't actually hold anything except for data. You can't see it in the composition. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this to the left eye because it's on the left from where I'm sitting. So left eye. Now, what I have to do is I have to apply this tracker that I made to this object. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click back in here so we're activating the tracker again. I'm going to edit the target. I'm going to set the target to be the left eye because that's what we named it down here. I'm going to hit OK, and then I'm going to hit apply. And then it's going to ask you, and you can do either X or Y, but I'm doing X and Y, so it'll do the coordinates. So now if we watch this, that little red box here is actually tracked to his eye now. So there you can see it's tracked to his eye. So we can use that. But we also have to go back in and track the other eye. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in here, and I'm going to go back to where we started this one. So right here, okay? And I'm going to track motion. Now, it created another tracker. The other one still exists, but you can't see it now, which is kind of nice. And this time I'll actually show you going through the play button instead of just the other one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to this one, and I'm going to hit the play button this time instead of the analyze frame forward. And now what that's going to do is it's going to go a little bit faster, but it's not quite as accurate. But I'll leave it as it comes out, unless it jumps really far, because sometimes it will jump to other spots on the face, and it doesn't look really good. So you can see that it finished tracking already, which is so much quicker than jumping frame by frame like I was doing here. So what we're going to do is we're going to create another null object for this one. So we're going to create a new null object, and I'm going to rename this one to right eye because it's on the right of the screen from where I'm sitting, so it's easier for me. So we're going to edit target, and we're going to put this on as the right eye. And then we're going to apply it again. And now we have two objects on the screen. And they both have different tracking, although you can tell that they both look really, really similar. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go off and we're going to create a red eye, like we had in our other video. So if I go back in the other video and show you, we had in here, somewhere about here, we had red eyeballs, and it looked really freaky. Right there. His eyes are red. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that. So we're going to go back in our tutorial composition, and I'm going to create a new solid. Now what this is going to do is it's going to make a giant black object. I'm going to rename this to left eye. Left eye. There we go. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into Effect Controls, and I'm going to create a new, I'm going to generate a circle. You can see there's beam up here, but we're going to use that for the beams in a minute. But we're going to use a circle so we can put his eye in there. Now, you can see it's a giant solid color, and it looks hideous. And it's white. So what we're going to do is we're first going to change the color to red. We can change it to a darker red if we want, but I'm just going to change it to about here. So that's good, but it's still huge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop this down, but you can't really tell what size his iris is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the opacity down to about there, and I move it right onto his iris. And then I'm going to scale it down. Now, it still looks pretty bad because it's a giant solid color, like I said before. It's just a little, it's a little more see-through. It's more opaque. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down to this feather, and we're going to drop this down, and we're going to feather the outer edge. And what that's going to do is it's going to feather it so it's thinner on the outside and more intense on the inside. So that actually looks pretty good. I might drop the opacity just a little bit more, so you can still see his iris. So probably about there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to where we started it. So we've got it right here. So I'll probably start it right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to grab this, I'm going to drop down this where it says none under parent, and I'm going to put that right onto this is our left eye, so we're going to put it on the left eye. And what that's doing is it's tracking the position of our left eye that we just created to the position of our null object left eye. Now you can see that it jumped off a little bit, but we can fix that. So if we just move in and fix it. So now if we play it, we should have a very nice red eye. You can see it starts right here. We'll fix that in a second, but I want to just show you how it tracks to it. Right now it's rendering it so it goes a little slower, but when it's done rendering the entire frame, it'll play it normally. So his eyes are normal. And then about here it'd pop in as red like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to stop this by hitting escape. And I'm going to go over and I'm going to drag this one spot right here. I'm going to drag it all the way to where we started, just there. Now that's going to look pretty cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start here and I'm going to render it again. It's playing, it's playing, it's playing. See, there's no red object yet. And then it suddenly pops into existence. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play it. And it looks like it just pops right in. It's kind of freaky. So there we go. I want it a little bit darker because it's a little too bright. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop it down. That'll probably be good there. Yeah, that'll be good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this. You could create another one, but I'm just going to duplicate it. It's easier. And we'll rename this one to right eye. Okay, so there's right eye. Now, this still will track to the left eye, so it'll look really weird. So we're going to track it to the right eye. And go over to it. And I'm going to grab it and move it onto his other eye. So now what that's going to do is it's going to track onto his other eye. So now we have both of his eyes tracked. So if we play this through, well, it's going to look, well, first of all, I zoomed in too far, but what we're going to do is we're going to play it, and it should, in theory, play this correctly. Sometimes After Effects freezes. There we go. So it's rendering everything right now, and then it's going to go through and play it. That's good enough. Let's just play it. If you press spacebar, it'll stop rendering it. So now we got both of his eyeballs. So there we go. We have 2 eyeballs done. What about the lasers and the explosions? Well, in my project, I've already got an explosion. I pulled off YouTube, I believe I found it. If I find it again, I'll link it in the description, but if not, then it won't be there, obviously. But what I've got is I've got this explosion. So I can put this anywhere I want. It's kind of large and it's black, so we won't mess with that right now, but I'll show you how to use that in a second. We're going to create the lasers first, because lasers are lots of fun. As I show you in here, if I do it right, he's got purple and blue lasers. Oh, maybe that's pink. Purple, pinkish, blue lasers coming from his eyes, and he's got explosions. We're going to do the lasers right now. We'll do the explosions afterwards. So we're going to go back in our tutorial, composition, and I'm going to go over to our composition, and I'm going to create a new solid, like you saw before, and I'm going to do it left laser. So there we go. We got a blank object, and it doesn't look very good. So what we're going to do first is I'm going to grab one of these points, and I'm going to hold shift and expand the thing a little bit. That way it doesn't mess up when we put the lasers in. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to Effect Controls, and I'm going to generate a beam. Now this beam is red. You know what? We'll actually use the red, because why not? We could change the colors right here, as you can see. But it's so much easier just to leave it. Now, we're going to grab the beam, and you can see these points right here. These points are where it starts and ends. This one's the ending point, and this one's the starting point. As you can see, the numbers in this corner changing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in onto his eye about here, and I'm going to move this up to about here as well. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the starting point and I'm going to put it right on his eye. So I'm going to click on the beam again so it'll generate the points for me. I'm going to zoom in right onto his eye. Right onto his iris, right there. I'm going to change the length to 100%. So it's as long as these points are. Which looks pretty cool. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the time right now to 0. I'm going to hit the stopwatch so it'll track it and key it for me in the future. I'm going to set it to 0. I'm going to come to about here and I'm going to set it to 100. I'm going to come to right before the end and set it to 100 as well. So I'll probably just move this just so it'll make sure it adds that key there. And I'll go to the end and I'll set it to 0. So now we have this laser that should pop into existence. We'll have to check it. But now we have a laser. And it's not very long, is it? So what we're going to do is we're going to go back in here. And we are going to grab that point right there, and we're going to move it off the screen, because we don't really need it in the screen right now. And if you can see, it's not on the eye as usual. So what we're going to do is we're going to track it again to the left eye. So I'm going to grab the, you can grab the whip, or you can change this. I'm just going to grab the whip this time, just for fun. And track it to the left eye.
I just got a picture, a regular picture offline.
And now it should track to your eye.
Orange and yellow.
And I made a little bit of a mistake when I did it earlier. When I did it to 100, it actually made it so it disappeared. So I'm going to set it to 50. So I'm going to go through my beam, and I'm going to change the time on this specific point right here. I'm going to change that to 50. There's that one. Change that one to 50 as well. 50. Scroll over. Change this one to 50. Change this one to 100. This one's going to be 100. That way it totally goes through its time. So now if we go off and play this, you've got this laser. It's kind of a little slow, but we can fix that in a second. And it's not completely tracking correctly. I'll zoom in and show you a little better. So we zoom in. His eyes are a little messed up, and the lasers aren't tracking to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to move it just a little bit, because it's not actually on the screen correctly. So I'm going to go off, and I'm going to minimize this so we have all our stuff back. And I'm going to go over to this, right here where the laser starts. And I'm going to move that starting point right here, right onto his eye again, because it fell off when we were playing with it. So now if we play it again, it's probably about here. If we play it about here, we should be able to see it. There we go. Now, the laser only moves in one spot. It's stuck there no matter where his eyes are pointing. So what we're going to do is we're going to stop it. And I'm going to go off and track that bottom point. So we're going to move this in, and we're going to track the ending point so it keys it when we move it. Now we're going to zoom in. So right here you looked at the camera. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that ending point, and I'm going to drag it right, and that messed up. But I'm going to drag this point right here to about here. Now that looks pretty cool. But it moves really slowly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this one back over here. And we can make this go with his eyeball. And then we can also make it go back over again, because why not?
This is how to set the milk. This is the milk.
Moving around a little bit. Just add a little bit of motion to it. Let it not be just an inanimate object. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go check that out. Make sure it actually looks good while we did that. So we play it now. It's kind of messing up right now, and I don't really know why, but I'm attempting to play this. Okay, so there we go. Now it moves a little bit wonky. But hey, it's good enough. You can mess with it on your own time. But we have this there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate it. And if you don't know how to duplicate it, I press Command D, and it duplicates it for me. And then I'm going to rename this to my right laser. There, right laser. So now what we're going to do is we still have the same exact laser, so we can use that. So I'm going to zoom into about here and track this onto the right eye instead. And then it's still on that eye, so we're going to move it over. And that should do it. So now if we play this, not in such a small screen.
Wait till it's done. It makes me cry.
So now if we play it, it should show you, well, it's still rendering, but there's still a little bit of green. Maybe we'll fix that in a second. But now, as it's rendering, you can see it's pretty cool because his eyes are red, and then the lasers just pop into existence. I'm playing the wrong one. There we go.
I work a lot of hours. I work about 35 hours.
There we go. So now you can see the eyeballs moving. It looks pretty sweet. It looks a little wonky, but we can fix that. So there we go. We have you a nice laser effect. How do you put those explosions in? You grab this explosion. I already have it, so I'm gonna grab it and put it right here. Now it looks really weird. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come in here. I'm gonna go into Effect Controls. I'm gonna add a keying and I'm gonna add a color range. I'm gonna key that to black. Now I'm gonna scroll through this so we can see it a little bit. And why not? Let's just put these in here. And that should do it. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to move this right below the lasers so that the lasers will appear on top of it. And move it to about there, and it should come out pretty good. Oh, and it's still a little black, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn up this fuzziness right here. And you can turn this up as high as you want, because it won't affect your other video. Now, I'm going to scale it because it looks way too large to be in our video. So I'm going to grab this point and hold shift again so it scales proportionally. And then I'm going to move it way down here. Hold proportional again. And there you go. And then I'm going to duplicate this one again and toss it somewhere else. So I'm going to grab this one. I'm going to undo that. And I'll grab this one. And I'll move it again. I'm going to scale it down and put it in the distance. And I'll put this at a little different time. And then duplicate it again. And put it at a little different time. And grab it. And put it way over there. And now you have some explosions. If I do find that video, I will put it in the description. But if I don't, I'm sorry. So now you have your video. You'll have to do a little finicky stuff with the lasers, but most of it is done. That's really all you have to do to have lasers and look like Superman. Good job, guys.